This program does not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or policies of the City of Oceanside, its elected officials, KOCT, its board of directors, or staff.
And welcome to this edition of Faith and the Common Good, brought to you by North Coast United Methodist Church. I'm your host, Pastor Harris. Joining me today is Crystal Anthony, who is the project coordinator for the program at North County Lifeline that addresses concerns and issues relative to human trafficking. And so today our conversation is about human trafficking. We look forward to this time as Crystal is so well versed in the matter, and through her we'll be able to see and understand information that will help us be supportive as this thrust of support moves through our community. Welcome, Crystal.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, certainly. It's so good to see you today, and thank you for taking the time to join us in this conversation. As noted, we are today talking about human trafficking, an issue with which you are very well versed and very passionate about. And so I thank you for coming this way to share with us information that will help us to be more aware and will provide for us opportunities to provide support. Firstly, I want to ask you the question about naming the issue. If you could, for us, frame what we're talking about when we speak of human trafficking.
I think oftentimes we envision human trafficking as something that happens in other countries. We envision it happening in Thailand, we envision it in Russia, we watch movies, that's what it tells us. What people don't realize is that human trafficking is happening here in the United States, here in Oceanside, Carlsbad, San Diego, North San Diego, all parts of San Diego. And what we don't recognize is that 72% of the victims that we're actually finding that are involved in human trafficking, in the sex trade, in commercial sexual exploitation is people who are born and raised here in America. The average age of entry is 12 to 14 years of age in the United States. Averages, we all know what those are. That means that kids can be younger than that, or you can be older than that. There's different. You know, what we're seeing most of is prostitution. We're seeing kids that are involved in prostitution that are getting pimped out by local gangs or gangs from different parts of the country that are often gangs that mostly focus on the sell of human beings. Mm-hmm. We know that selling drugs is something that's dangerous. It's something that, you know, once you sell the drug, it goes bye-bye, and with a human being, that's something that you can resell over and over and over again, and gangs have caught on to that. And human trafficking, what is mostly being seen, especially here in Oceanside and in the North San Diego County region and all of San Diego, we are seeing that gangs are running girls and are making money and profiting off of them. And
so what we're talking about is the sale of the human body, whether boy or girl, in exchange for money for sexual gratification by those who purchase the quote-unquote service. And in this area, are you finding trends that would indicate there is an increase in what's happening here in our local area?
Yes. So part of what I do is I actually go into the juvenile detention facility, and I work and I provide prevention groups there. One of my groups, it's called My Life, My Choice. It's based out of an evidence-based practice that was used in Boston, and it's a big program, and I got trained in it and brought it into the juvenile detention facility. And I'll have a group of 8 girls, maybe 3 of which who probation and child welfare services are already in the know that the child is involved in this, and, you know, they're trying to find resources for them. But then I'll have a group of 5 more girls who have no idea that what human trafficking is, what it looks like, what commercial sexual exploitation of children is. And what I'm finding is that in the past 2.5 years since we've had our program, we have girls who are being identified that were never identified before. Mm-hmm. Because for most children and for most girls and boys, when they think of human trafficking, they think of what much of America thinks of, which is, you know, it happens in other countries. It's being brought into the United States. Yes, it happens in the United States, but it's not our kids. It's, you know, it's other people. And so when it's described to them what human trafficking actually looks like domestically, more and more kids are actually identifying. They're saying, oh my gosh, I think I've been involved in something like this. And so I think the trend of not necessarily being able to know or identify, like even the definition of human trafficking is one of the biggest things that we're seeing. We're also just seeing running away. It's one of the biggest reasons. If I go and talk to any youth and I'm like, have you ever been on the run? Have you ran away? I mean, that in and of itself puts your risk up this much higher. It is one of the biggest things that I see. Running away, that means you're without shelter, you're without all the basic needs that you need. So you're more willing to maybe fall into the trap of a pimp or a trafficker, a person who's going to persuade you and say, like, I'm here to listen to you, I'm here to care about you. It's that Romeo finesse pimp that we see that shortly turns into a guerrilla pimp that uses force and threats and coercion to keep you in the game.
So let's be very specific. If you could walk us through what you have been able to identify as the steps that lead into human trafficking. You've already talked about the pimp. If you could define pimp for us and then offer to us explanation about the process.
You know, for many of my girls, I often tell the story of this really defenseless young girl, Susie, and I talk about how Susie has been in, you know, she's been in the foster care system, or she's been in a home where she's experienced physical or sexual abuse. For most of my girls that I've worked with, you know, 99% of the girls that are involved in the sex trade have experienced some form of physical or sexual abuse. They've already been somewhat victimized and then told, you know, your body is your worth, or their system, you know, their mental health starts telling them, you know, that is what you're worth, your body, for money. And so a person, a pimp, can be an uncle, can be an aunt, can be a mom, can be a dad, can be a boyfriend. What we are seeing mostly is the boyfriending of a pimp. This is a person who, you know, makes the young girl, the young Susie, makes her the you know, I'll be your boyfriend, I'll take care of you, I'll take you out of the system. You know, if they're in a group home, I mean, even more so, they feel alone and they feel rejected by their own family, so it's even easier to get entrapped in something like that. A pimp would then, you know, befriend them, say like, it's gonna be me and you against the world. I can't tell you how many times my girls will tell me, like, did somebody share my story with you before before I even met you? And often I have to say no. But that is really the beginning process of the game. This is the beginning process of getting involved in the life. And it can often look like a choice to the rest of us, because the rest of us are seeing it from the outside perspective of, you know, well, that's a choice. You know, if she ran out of shelter, that's a choice that she's getting involved in something like this. But the reality, what we're really seeing is that these girls have no other choice. They don't have a home to go to. They don't have a mom and dad to rely on. And if they do have a mom and dad, they may not necessarily have the support systems necessary at home. And so falling into this, you know, you could be from a really pretty neighborhood, and this can still happen to you, because just because you're from a pretty neighborhood doesn't mean that things are always right in the home. And, you know, sometimes it does happen to kids who did have good parents and they didn't necessarily go into the foster care system, or they weren't involved with probation, they weren't involved in anything. But the reality is that it can truly happen to anybody. More and more we're seeing that it happens to kids in the nice neighborhoods, the not so nice neighborhoods. It doesn't matter where you're from. This can truly, anybody could be a victim of this. Just like, though, I also say anybody could also be a predator. Anybody could also be a trafficker, because there is no specific person, ethnicity, or background that identifies what a pimp is. A pimp is basically just a person who's going to profit off of somebody else for the sale of sex, and then they're going to take all of the money. Most of the girls, you know, they'll tell me, like, my pimp let me hold my money. You know, he wasn't as bad as it seems. And it's like, that's a mental game. That's that's him using tactics to make you stay with him. Like, I'm going to give you some options. Like, I'm going to give you the ability to hold the money. You can go get your hair done. You can go get your nails done. I'm going to take care of you. You know, but he, at the end of the day, is the bank. He's going to keep all of the money. And you're just going to be one of his maybe many girls, or you might be his only girl. But
let's begin to talk about the impact on our community, as well as the impact upon those who have been exploited.
So, impact on community, this has made a huge impact. We've had to become aware. We've had to become knowledgeable on this problem and know how to identify not only a victim, but identify possible trafficker on campus at a school. And so what we have seen is more and more schools in the last, I would say, 2 years have been, you know, instead of turning around and saying like that problem doesn't happen here, more and more schools such as Oceanside Unified School District have been very forward and upfront and say, we want to do something about this problem and we want to take care of it. And you know, recently, about 1.5 years ago now, or maybe less than that, Oceanside, San Diego Office of Education, and then North County Lifeline Project Life program, we all partnered together to create a mandatory training for all school psychologists, counselors, you know, all of their administrative staff, superintendents. I mean, it became a mandatory training for all of them to attend, and then created a soft protocol, and then moving forward, it's going to be a permanent protocol onto identifying victims of human trafficking. And it has been something that, you know, you may not have, like right now there's legislation going into place like to tell schools that they need to teach kids about human trafficking and they need to train their school administrators. But you have schools here in San Diego who are being so innovative already. You know, Grossmont led the way, Grossmont Unified School District. And then now Oceanside has truly just taken that on. You know, after the big case in 2011, which was the RICO case, where 3 different gangs came together that were in Oceanside to sell children and young girls in a hotel here in Oceanside. From that, you know, they've really just taken and said, you know what, there is a problem, and we can't say we don't see it. We do see it, and we're going to take care of it. And I think that that says a lot about the school district here. It says that they want to take care, they want to take action. And then recently they even hosted, they were the sponsor for our 2nd annual human trafficking conference, which is, it says a lot. It's something that most school districts don't do, but they're leading the way and saying we all need to do this. And you know, Vista Unified as well followed, and there's other school districts in North County that want the same. They want to have trainings already involved. This is before legislation is actually taking place. Sure. So this is a really big deal. It is impacting the community. It's making child welfare services do specific things to be able to identify victims of human trafficking. It's, you know, it's making probation have to do training, law enforcement. It's forcing different systems to have to specify trainings for this cause, because more and more now we are seeing it in our community. Now our eyes are open and we are saying this is happening. North County, we're lucky, we have a task force that's made up of many different agencies led by the San Diego Sheriff's Department and Oceanside, Carlsbad, Escondido police departments, and we happen to be the NGO, non-governmental organization for that task force. And it's one of many task forces in the state of California, but it makes an impact. And through community involvement and through the education of community, more and more people want to make a difference, and they want to let people know what this problem is. So I think it gives us a cause, but at the same time it gives us a sad cause. It gives us a cause that we now have to make people aware of, so that they can know, and once you know, you can't turn away. Sure. You have to move forward.
Sure. So then on the end of that which we claim as exploited, for the young people who have been exploited, what is the impact on their lives as the community becomes more aware, as networks of organizations begin to work toward resolving the concern and being of support to these young people? What is the impact on their lives?
I think the impact is when we get more people trained and more people aware, that trauma, being trauma informed, understanding what trauma is, and that when we're providing care for somebody and understanding what they've been through and, you know, the road they've walked on and the post-traumatic stress that happens in the life. I think it allows professionals to be able to assist these clients with a different level of care. Now, that means that you've been trained and you're trauma informed, because I do think that we still have a long road to go. I think that more and more people are becoming aware, and they are like providing better care and services for these girls. I think that there's still, we still need more homes. We still need more shelter here in San Diego. We need more shelter across America, period. But you know what? It's a work in progress, and I think the more people are aware, the more people are like, what can I do to help? And you know, I have a great friend, her name's Rhonda, and she went to a training a couple years ago, and she was inspired, and she's like, what can I do to make a difference? And what she did is, you know, she's like, what happens to these girls? Oh gosh, they get branded with tattoos by their pimps, with pimp names. They'll say daddy, they'll have dollar signs, they'll have different things on their bodies. And so what she does is she decided to create a nonprofit, and she now provides, every 6 weeks, she provides free tattoo removal for all of our girls. All of the different programs in San Diego County can go to her and take our girls there, and they can get those brandings removed. What an awesome thing to do. Sure. And truly, that's how it affected community, but then how it made an impact on clients. It provided an extra service that we didn't have before.
Is there a story that you can share with us about success?
Yeah, I have a young woman who, a young girl, truly, who I met about in the last 2 years since I've had this program. And what we do is we provide victim advocacy, immediate victim advocacy to law enforcement. And so during a 3-day operation, we actually met this young girl, and we were able to actually provide immediate victim advocacy. We said, these are the different resources that you have available. If you are interested in this program, here's our number. Here's a backpack with basic needs stuff. You know, it had like shampoo, conditioner, and a bunch of other fun things in there that we take with us on all operations and stings. And you know, sometimes you don't know if that person's going to call you, or if they're not going to call you. And more often than not, they don't call. And this young girl did call. And we were able to work with her to provide the mental health services, to provide the intensive case management. And it wasn't, you know, it wasn't this miracle pill that she took and she was all better. No, it was a work in progress for some time. It is still a work in progress, because you know, that supportive care system is needed for a long term. It cannot just be a 6-month, you know, here's a few things to help you with your life and bye, because we don't have time for you. No, it is a long-term process, and we ended up helping her get charges dropped. We worked with the district attorney's office. We worked with our law enforcement, because she was a victim of human trafficking. And, you know, through that, she's now doing so well. She has a job. She's able, you know, her mental health, like, you know, she did go through a lot of trauma, and she did experience a lot of different things, and she's moving forward. And I think that for advocates and for case managers, when we see a success story and we realize, like, that's not us. That was a decision and choice that they made. They're the survivor. I didn't create the survivor. I don't take credit for helping her become like a survivor. But I was a support system. I was one of many support systems that was needed to help her get to where she was. But truly, she's the survivor. She is the story. But she's also much more than her story. She is a person who, you know, has dreams and goals and aspirations. And you know what? We're here to help her along the way.
Well, Crystal, obviously you are so passionate about the work that you do, and we are so grateful that you are among the many in our area who are committed to offering transformation opportunities to young people who have been entrapped and who have been exploited. New to the table is Marvell Simmons, who is the president of the United Methodist Women at North Coast United Methodist Church. Welcome, Marvell.
Thank you.
We, in this segment, will talk about ways that faith community can be supportive in helping to resolve the issue that we are in discussion about, which is human trafficking, and also identifying ways that networks of faith community can become avenues for awareness. as well as places of support emotionally with compassionate service to those who have been exploited. So Marvell, I'd like to begin with you by asking you, in your initial hearing about the concern in our community, what was your response?
I really didn't know what the topic of human trafficking contained. Having just recently relocated to Oceanside, it was something that I was not aware of and did not realize that it was taking place in our backyards.
Mm-hmm. And so as you began to become aware, what was beginning to burgeon within you? What was bubbling within you?
The fact that I'm a grandmother and concerned about the youth, and concerned about the fact that if I wasn't aware of this, how many other people weren't aware of this. Mm-hmm. And so the more I could, the knowledge, and then with that knowledge base, now I can go out and communicate with my sisters and say, we have a problem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you took the initiative then, as president of this group of women at the United Methodist Church, to call on Crystal to come and offer a presentation. Can you tell us about that, please?
In part of that comes from the Methodist women. One of the topics that we are nationwide focusing on is human trafficking. And so I Googled human trafficking, found that we had Crystal just down the road from us. And so we asked her to come in and provide a program. And it was, you know, opened my eyes. And then shortly thereafter, I found out the second annual conference, and I attended the all-day conference. Just astounded with the numbers that were given and the stories that were shared. I come from a background where this was not talked about. Mm-hmm. You know, it was always underneath the table, nobody said anything, mm-hmm. and it's like, wow, mm-hmm. this is happening, this is a problem.
Mm-hmm. We can probably agree that, especially when it comes to matters of sex, that faith communities are a little more reticent in their conversations, and especially when it's talking about the matter of exploitation that is honed in on this matter of sexual activity, we shy away from it altogether. And so I'm so glad to know, firstly, that you were impacted enough to be willing to pick up the cause and move it forward. Even in the national discussion, there's still hesitance to address the issue. But when it's in your face, when it's in the backyard in which you live, it becomes more and more difficult to avoid it, and more difficult to shy away from becoming involved. And so thank you for taking the initiative to proceed with gathering more information and being supportive in helping to spread that information. As we come back to you now, Crystal, if you could share with us a little bit about the training that you offer, and then talk about ways of networking and expanding the opportunity for information.
I do a few different trainings. I provide a basic 101 on what is human trafficking, but my 101 is pretty in-depth, I would say. And then I also specialize it depending on who the audience is. So if it's community members or if it's social workers who kind of already know what human trafficking is, and it's more on like how to identify in my workplace, specifically if it's kids that they're working with or even the parents of the kids that they're working with. We've had great referrals because of that have come, one, into law enforcement, or two, they come to us and then we refer them to law enforcement. And then we also do like probation trainings, and so it kind of just depends on the specialty. I'm doing a hospital next week, so it kind of just it really does depend. And it's a lot of it, then it's a follow-up training. So for schools, especially both with Oceanside and Vista Unified, I did that 101 training, and then I followed it up with a train the trainers on like how to talk to kids who you think might be involved in this, or just how to bring it up. Because human trafficking, while we can go to a training and learn about it, it is very awkward. It's an awkward topic on like how to talk to your kids about human trafficking, how to bring it up and show awareness. And you know, I talk about it till I'm blue in the face. I'll ruin a Thanksgiving dinner, because I think it's just so important for us to, when we go to a training and we learn about it, to actually go and then share about what we've learned, because so many people, like you said, just don't know that this problem even occurs. They don't know that it's happening. And so step one is awareness, I would say. And I drill that in because for some of us, just talking about it is super hard, and that's like the first step to making a difference in the community.
Sure. And relative to faith communities, what specifically can you offer, both as example as well as opportunity for networking?
With faith-based communities, there's two really big groups that are now meeting. They meet in North and San Diego as well, South San Diego, and it's Churches Against Trafficking. It's a community of different churches from different faiths, different backgrounds that come together, and they're trying to come up with solutions and like, what can we do? And one of the things that they've kind of taken on recently is there's legislation that is getting passed, and some here locally that's already been implemented actually, that requires some businesses to have posters up that have the 888-3737-888 number, which is the National Human Trafficking Hotline. And, you know, I can't do all the work, right? So those are some ways that community and church-based community that wants to get involved can get involved. This group is actually talking to city council members, and they're doing it in such a way so that they can get the backing of their other cities to then be able to implement these posters. And so we're seeing that they're actually doing it in different parts of San Diego County, and so people in the faith-based community want to get involved. That's a great way to get involved. There's also, you can find them on their Facebook page or their website. There's also another group that's been around for a very long time. It's through the Seroptimus of Vista International, and they do an anti-human trafficking collaboration group, and they meet once every other month. They're on break right now, it's summertime, but they start up their groups again, and all you have to do is get on their email list, and they just start sending you great information. And Kay Van Neville, she runs that program, and she's incredible. Like, she has that, honestly, when we got involved in human trafficking, we went to one of those meetings and were able to meet any person that you want to meet within human trafficking in the community. You can meet there because it provides that collaboration piece that's needed. You know, it can't be done by a social service provider. It can't be done by law enforcement by themselves. We do need community involvement. And you know, the faith-based community has been incredible because you have access to so many different people, like people that don't know that this is happening. With that said, I also always say, you know, there's people in the audience or in churches who can provide those treatments or necessary things that we might need. If I need a dentist because my client doesn't have insurance and they don't have certain things, you know, but they have a toothache, you know, having a dentist who offers that type of service and knows that, you know, this is a program who works with victims of human trafficking, like, oh my gosh. I'll tell you that I went to go get my teeth done, and I told my dentist about it, and they offered, you know, some work for 2 of my clients. And that kind of thing is what we can all do. If we spread awareness, we can use our passions to make a difference.
So if there's one message that you'd like to share, and I'll ask the question of both of you, what would that be? Just one word, very briefly. What message would you share about this issue of human trafficking?
I would say that, one, the more that we share, the more that we can make this a problem that we can become aware of and that we can combat together through collaboration, through partnerships, the more we are going to make a difference in this community. If we don't have collaboration between community, faith-based, social service providers, law enforcement, you name it, if there's not collaboration, we're not going to be able to fix this problem.
Thank you. Marvell?
Communicate. In one word, simple, easy. Don't be afraid to talk about it.
Thank you both. We really do appreciate your willingness and your passion that is growing in Marvell and the United Methodist Women, not only at North Coast United Methodist Church, but all around the denomination. And then thank you, Crystal, for being on the front line, for responding to these young people as they come to you with their brokenness and with their concerns and their fear. And we hope that you are able to see your face in these children, these young people, as you bring them back to wholeness. Until next time, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again.